The following is a Just Green production brought to you by the Might Be News Network.
What's up, everybody? It's the week of February 15th, 2021. My name is Taylor Cooper. This is Might Be Sports. With me, as always, Kevin Reevy. What's up, Reevy?
Howdy ho.
It is a wonderful week here at the Might Be News Network. Make sure you go check out mbnnetwork.com. It's never been easier for you to find your new favorite podcast. We have playlists galore for every show on the network. There is a dedicated playlist on the website. If you're listening to us on Spotify, if you're listening to us on iTunes, you do not have these playlists on there. Not knocking these platforms or anything, but it's just easier to follow along with specific shows if that's what you want to do over at mbnnetwork.com. We're always sponsored by Eunomia CBD. Go to eunomiacbd.com. Use promo code MBN. Get 20% off, free shipping and a free gift. That free gift is courtesy of the network and courtesy of Eunomia. We really hope that you guys enjoy your CBD products. If you get them from Eunomia, they sell the best stuff. I'm telling you, I love the gel caps. I love the muscle lotion. It's just fantastic stuff. Jackie loves the bath bombs. We both use the gummies from time to time as well. It's just really, really good stuff. eunomiacbd.com. All right, so without further ado, we kind of wrapped up the NFL season the best we could last week by covering the terrible spectacle that was the Super Bowl. And as promised, I want to talk some NBA this week.
Finally,
we're a couple weeks
getting to it.
We're finally getting there. We're already a couple weeks away from the All-Star break, and it's been a great season already so far. I feel like the Sixers look really good. They're not where I want them to be, but I don't feel like they're far from it. As we're recording, Ben Simmons coming off a career-high night out in Utah, 43 points or something like that. I'm really happy about that. He's been playing really aggressive. I'm a big fan of what Joel Embiid has been doing this season as well when he's on the court. He's missing a lot of time, which I don't like. I'm hoping that it's just to kind of keep him fresh for the playoffs and blah, 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 but we're still a ways away from that. I like what I'm seeing out of Tobias Harris a lot as well. And, I really feel like the coaching change to Doc Rivers has shown quite a bit. I feel like the team is more aggressive. I like the additions of Danny Green and Seth Curry. Both of them they're not really living up to the potential right now. I know that Seth Curry's been going through some COVID problems. Danny Green I've never been a huge fan of in general, but when he's good, he's good. I just don't feel like he's the consistent shooter that the Sixers need. Because when he's off, he just doesn't even belong in the NBA. That's where I'm at with the Sixers. What about you, Reevy?
Yeah, it's hard to tell, if it's Doc Rivers or if their team is just, we talked about this last year where I believe when it comes to playing championship level basketball, whether it's the NBA, college basketball, or the international game, I think the number one thing is having a team playing together for a long period of time and having a plan in place. And I really truly believe, and people say this all the time, like the best blank college basketball or football team could beat the worst pro college or worst pro basketball or football team. But I think in the NBA, that's certainly true. I think you let the coaches do what they can do with guys 4 years in college. You got a solid senior and junior squad out there. I think that team could really just tear through several pro teams. And you see teams all the time in the international game with guys that can't even make the NBA, and they're just they're holding their own. They're playing up to NBA level talent. And the reason for that is that they play like a team. Like, it's too much of the NBA has become this individual game. And I think the more time that Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons and all those guys have got to play together, and now that the pieces just seem like they fit more, before it wasn't the greatest fit. The team that they constructed last year was just kind of odd. And they were trying to figure out who the man was outside of Joel Embiid. And I think they have a little bit of a better idea, or at least they're more playing like a team. Seth Curry, I think, was the greatest addition and Danny Green, because those guys are role players and that's what they know. That's how they play. And they're really, really good at what they do. So, I think when they lost Robert Covington, they kind of lost a little bit of that kind of deal. Like, they were just sort of plug it in stars, kind of max contract guys that didn't really fit. Shoot, the guy's name is escaping me, but signed him from the Celtics on the team last year.
Al Horford.
Yeah, that's right. Al Horford. Perfect example. You basically pay a max slot guy just because he's available. I mean, that's really the only explanation that they had for that kind of move, is just he was available. He has these awesome stats. Let's try to make it work. Doesn't make sense. Seth Curry, as soon as they got him, I was like, well, that's amazing. That's a perfect fit. You need a 3-point shooter, and he is like literally like the poor man's Steph Curry. So he fits in perfectly there. And yeah, like you said, with COVID, he hasn't always been on the floor. They just seem to have the pieces that fit right now. Doc Rivers is an NBA coach. He's what they need. Brown last year, I just never believed in him.
Yeah.
And, maybe I put a little bit of too much stock in this sometimes, but it's like Jared Goff with the damn Rams. I just always thought he sounded dumb.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, the coaches are around this quarterback who leads your team. It just sounds like a dumb guy. He sounds like a dumb surfer LA dude. And I think when it came down to it, they're like, we could do better. And I think a coach at the head coaching position in the NBA or any sport, if that's what you have leading your team, after a while, you just think we could do better.
Yeah.
And to go from Brown to Rivers is amazing. I mean, that's a huge upgrade. I think that worked out perfectly for him. But, I mean, we'll see. It's so weird with the NBA that the Sixers can be number one in the Eastern Conference with 18 wins, or 18-10. And they'd probably be the 5th or 6th, maybe 7th best team in the Western Conference, just on record alone. I mean, you factor in the fact that the Western Conference teams are playing each other. How on the power rankings, where do the Sixers really rank?
Yeah.
So it's easy to look at the standings right now, and if you Google, NBA standings, because of alphabetical order, Eastern Conference comes up first. And you say, oh, shoot, Sixers in first. Then you look at the Western Conference and, not so fast.
Yeah.
So a lot to be excited about going forward, but it's just, just one of those things. I don't want to be Debbie Downer about it, but is it just going to be, once the playoffs start, it's going to be a crapshoot in the Eastern Conference, and then it doesn't even matter because the Western Conference team is going to win it all? I don't know.
Yeah. See, that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. However, I mean, it's still going to be interesting to see where they stack up. And obviously, when it comes down to the finals, it's anybody's game. It doesn't matter what conference they're in. It's just kind of who's hot, who's not, and who can overcome that level of adversity. LeBron kind of being the Brady effect, in the NBA, where it's like, all right, if the Lakers don't make it to the finals, then it's really anybody's game. But if LeBron makes it to the finals, then it steadily, the needle goes in that direction. And I would say the same thing about Golden State as well, considering how many times they've been through it. But, I mean, I can't help but look at the Sixers team under Doc Rivers and just say to myself that all it's missing is Jimmy Butler. Like, I feel like there's a gaping hole in the Sixers, and it's Jimmy Butler. It's a Jimmy Butler size hole in the Sixers. And I feel like
it was.
Like his personality would fit perfectly with the Sixers now, as opposed to when he was on the Sixers. And I mean, you watch Ben Simmons playing against the Jazz, and he's like, vocal on the floor. He's screaming after he dunks, and he's hyped up, and he's raging on the court. And that is the game that Jimmy Butler wanted out of Ben Simmons. I don't think that Jimmy Butler needed the jumper. I don't think that Jimmy Butler needed, the three. I think that he needed that aggressiveness to step up. And you're seeing that in a big way from Ben Simmons, at least in the past, week, 2 weeks. He looks great. He's playing lights out when Embiid is out. I know they just had a West Coast road trip, and they went 1-3 out there. And you're right. You look at the standings. I'm looking at it right now. Sixers are in first place in the Eastern Conference with a record of 18-10, and Utah is in the first place in the Western Conference with a record of 23-5. So right there, you see that there's a huge disparity in wins-loss. I mean, these Western Conference teams are playing fucking good ball. Utah, 23-5. Lakers, 21-7. Clippers, 21-8. Phoenix, 17-9. Portland, 16-10. That's their top five out in the West. Here in the East, you got 18-10 Sixers, 16-11 Bucks, Brooklyn 17-12, Pacers 14-14, Boston 13-13. You have two teams in the top five in the Eastern Conference that are 500 right now. That's right. Bizarre.
Yeah, it reminds me of the old Eastern Conference, really, when you had the Nets go into the finals 2 years in a row, and they were really the only team in the Eastern Conference at that time. The Sixers had, they were a one-year wonder. That's kind of the way the Eastern Conference was for a while, and it's looking like the same right now. And this is the way the NBA always seems to go. It's going to go that way because nobody wants to play in Milwaukee. Nobody, it's just, I don't know. It doesn't always work out, geographically, Western, Eastern Conference, whatever, most desirable places to play. But it does seem to fall into that category that some of the least desirable places to play are in the Eastern Conference. Just how it goes.
Yeah.
But just when you brought up Jimmy Butler, and that's a good point. If you were looking at, you can't always judge the NBA like you would a baseball team, or even a football team. You can't look at the stats and try to analytically break it down, because if you do that, they made the right move. They made the right move in, getting rid of Jimmy Butler and keeping
Tobias Harris.
Tobias Harris, you looked at his stats. He was, kind of a flashy 3-point shooter, a bigger guy. He's going to be able to get off that shot. He's maybe going to give you 20 points a game, you figure, for the remainder of his contract. That was a smart move. He's in his 20s. Jimmy Butler's older, and Jimmy Butler has that. You look at his stats and it's just points, and then you look at the 3-point shooting and you're like, that's not that great. That's what the analytics guys look at now. If you're just giving me points, then what are you doing on the 3-point line? Because that's where I want the points to come from. So if you're just looking at that, you see the points and they're not coming from the 3-point line. I mean, you look at Russell Westbrook, his career 3-point percentage is .305. You look at like an up-and-comer right now, Donovan Mitchell. He's shooting well from three this year. I think he's around 40% this year, but career he's like 350, 360. But it's not, you can't put it on a stat sheet what those guys do. And I was wrong. I wanted Butler gone. I kind of looked at it analytically like, a baseball analyst. And I thought Harris was the guy. I was wrong. It's that difference maker player. This is what Allen Iverson was his entire career. He just gave up playing defense towards the end of his career, but he was still incredibly valuable because he had that ability to score that doesn't always show up in a stat sheet. And sometimes it lies. Look at what Harden has done, this year and a little bit last year. And Westbrook is the primary example of empty stats. So sometimes it lies. You got to know what you're looking at. You got to know what you're seeing. But man, once Butler was gone, that was the hole. Like when we talk about a team, they made the right moves on paper, analytically, to kind of put a team together. If you look at the stats, it all kind of made sense. But when it came down to it, they didn't have the guy, and they still don't have the guy. So you got to worry about that. Unless it's Joel Embiid. And I don't think I think the NBA is getting there. It's getting back to the big man, but they're not there yet. So I don't know if they need to make a move, or maybe you don't make a move and you just try to dominate the Eastern Conference. Why try to battle the teams out West when you don't have to face them till the final round? That might be the move. I don't know. It seems like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, because if you sell out for that star, your window tightens. So we'll see. I think it's going to come down to when the playoffs start. If the Sixers are at the top, and I think there should be a bye, but they're never going to do that in the NBA. They want as many games as possible. I just think every round is going to be competitive. It's going to be like the NHL playoffs. Like it's just too much parity in that Eastern Conference that I don't think they're a shoo-in to get to the end. So they just got to figure out a way to make this team work to dominate that Eastern Conference. And that's all they got to do. Don't pick a fight with the big guys if you don't necessarily have to.
They have to figure out a way for Joel Embiid to play more than 5 games straight. That's what their primary number one focus needs to be right now. People, myself included, have trashed Ben Simmons all the time over the jump shot. And
especially when guys in the NBA all over the damn place are learning to shoot a 3-point shot.
Hey,
like
I get
just
it.
Said Donovan Mitchell.
Yep. I get it.
He improved his 3-point shot every year in the league. It turns out it ain't that hard to do.
Right.
You can get
but at the same time, Simmons put up 43 the other night without shooting a single three. So It's not 100% necessary. And my point is that Ben Simmons plays unless he's fucking injured.
Mm-hmm.
None of this I can't do a double back to back. None of this fucking just resting. None of this fucking bullshit that they do with Embiid all the time. And I love Embiid. I get that he's a big man. I'm a big dude. I understand that there's physical limitations to being, a big fucking person. But point blank period, they've got to figure out how to keep him on the court. And because I think what now after the Jazz game, I think they're 1-6 without Embiid this year. That's a problem because I don't want to hear this shit at the end of the second round when Brooklyn or fucking whoever kicks us out of the playoffs, kicks the Sixers out of the playoffs. Oh, we just need to play together longer. Oh, we just need to, there's viral footage of Embiid crying in the locker room. I don't fucking want to see that anymore. I want to see Embiid play basketball. And if he can't play basketball, I don't understand why everybody was throwing Ben Simmons in a package to get Harden. Why not get the Joel Embiid out of town? I don't want that. Don't get me wrong. But if the fucking guy can't play basketball more than fucking a week straight, that's a problem.
Well, if you're going to go analytics, I think get away from stats and go to body type. And I think that's the best way to do analytics with the NBA. If you look at guys like Ben Simmons don't get hurt. You just look at their body type. They just don't. He had a freak injury, his first year in the league, but that's been basically it.
Yeah.
You look at guys that are built, big guys, as long as they're built solid, they don't get hurt. Dirk Nowitzki, The Greek Freak is a good example of a guy, he's a freak athletically, but you don't think of him the same way as you think of Joel Embiid athletically, who's also a freak.
Dude, every time I see,
he's just built more solid.
I don't see,
you know that's going to last longer.
I don't see video of Embiid working out, doing reps. I'm not saying he doesn't, right? But like, you put him next to the Greek Freak. Put him next to him. Put him right next to Giannis, and you can tell the difference instantaneously. Put him next to Djokovic. You can tell the difference instantaneously. I'm not saying that Joel Embiid's a bad player. I like what he's doing this year. He's leading the team in points, averaging almost 30 points a game, which is what the Sixers need from the big man. That he's doing what he's supposed to do. So don't get me wrong at all, people out there listening. I don't want Joel Embiid to go anywhere, but I want to see less clips of him watching anime on his phone and more clips of him doing some reps in the gym and getting more physical. It has to happen. We're talking about the West here. We're talking about their records out there. How in the hell are the Sixers going to make it, if they even get to the finals, without a physical center? It's not going to happen. And Dwight Howard's not going to do it for them. He's not going to do it for them. He's not Dwight Howard from 10 years ago. So where I'm at with the Sixers is a very, I feel like a very good place, but a very conflicted place. Because part of me is like, all right, cool. This is Doc Rivers' first year. I'm giving him that grace period of like, figure out who your personnel is, figure out how to use them the best. I think he really figured out something with using Simmons against Gobert in Utah. That was a severe mismatch that Ben Simmons was able to capitalize on, and maybe that's what Doc Rivers does more of in the moving forward. Whether that mismatch would be there with Embiid on the court or not, I don't know, because I'm not a coach of basketball. But I see a lot of upsides with the Sixers team, especially with how shitty the East is. I mean, you look at it, and Brooklyn is basically that shining star because they're the only real all-star team in the East. All these all-star teams going on in the West, Brooklyn is kind of built that way. But
again, not a team. So that's
right.
What they've struggled with at times, being the worst defensive team.
It's not translating
in NBA history.
Right. It's not translating. So I don't know what's going to happen with them. Excuse me. If KD's playing, then Kyrie's not playing, and if it just always feels like one of them is out. And ever since Harden's gotten there, he's played. Like it just I don't get a good vibe watching the Nets. I
just think if you just give me a great coach, wherever he comes from, let's just say, we're on, PlayStation, and we create just a grade B+ coach. Just drop him on a random NBA team, clean slate entirely. And you tell me that I could sign, decent C-level players, and they're all going to be together for 5 years. And here's what they're going to do. They're not going to be me guys. It's going to be like international style basketball. They're going to listen to the coach. The coach is going to be like Bill Belichick. He's going to crack the whip. You listen to what I say. You don't listen to what I say. You ride the bench. I don't care if you are a superstar or not. If you can create that kind of atmosphere for an NBA team, if players could buy into that, I think that team would dominate. And you wouldn't have to have dominating players.
Yeah.
It's just that's what's missing. It's clearly what's missing in the NBA. I mean, we've seen this play out. I mean, maybe I'm putting too much stock in, those old U.S. Olympic teams that failed, but they had all-stars from the top to the bottom of that damn lineup, like those teams with Stephon Marbury and all those guys. And they didn't even medal. They may have gotten bronze, but they weren't in the championship game. They were playing guys that weren't in the NBA. So I really think that's part of it. Right now, the teams think they can just add, 2 or 3 stars to a team. It doesn't matter who they put around them. No, that's just a LeBron James thing. He's just that damn good. And I think LeBron James right now is so respected in the NBA that he's kind of like Bill Belichick, player coach in himself. He just brings out the greatness in other guys, just being on his team. So I don't know. I think the Sixers can kind of get there. I think Doc Rivers would be the guy you would respect. I don't think anybody I can't remember the last time a Sixers coach was respected, probably Larry Brown. And that was the thing. Allen Iverson was afraid to let him down. So he kind of kept him in check a little bit.
I tell you, I think that Doc Rivers will be a coach that gets it done in Philadelphia. I do believe that. I think that you're 100% right that he's respectable enough on a player-wise that he could do that. That being said, I don't think that that'll happen with Joel Embiid on the Philadelphia 76ers. I don't think so.
And you know what? It's kind of like we talked about, him getting into the gym and all that. You can, reinforce him with steel and get him in the gym and bulk up. But if his foundation is jello, he's just going to collapse. I don't even know that he has it in him physiologically. I don't know that he has the body type to even become that kind of guy. I mean, if he can be, LeBron James should be the guy he's talking to, because LeBron became this bulked up Hulk and changed his game. Yep. But at 7 foot, 7'1", kind of wiry frame, can you do that? Yeah. I'm not sure.
Yeah, dude, it's gonna be tough for Joel. And like I said, I'm not trying to be a hater on Joel Embiid, but I would take a downgrade at the center for consistent shooting from the perimeter. Because I feel like if there is consistent shooting from the perimeter plus Ben Simmons, I feel like the Sixers would be fine without the marquee of Joel Embiid. Because I feel like that's, aside from the 30 points a game that he's given them, that's to me kind of what Joel Embiid is he's a marquee player that's just not getting it done. Like, it's just, to me, it's not enough. I would venture to say that I'm not going to be satisfied with Joel Embiid until he bulks up and gets to fucking work, because realistically speaking, he just doesn't look different enough to me for me to be satisfied. It's just not enough.
By the way, just to put you on the spot, who do you think is the closest to Bill Belichick, or who's the best coach in the NBA, the most respected?
In the NBA?
Right now, yeah.
Pop.
Exactly. Yep. Now, I just thought about this. Now, just to hammer home, of course, I'm bringing up things to support my opinion. But what better example? How many?
Yeah. No, you're right.
How many trash teams did he just elevate because they respected Greg Popovich? I just pulled up on a whim. I just went back a little bit. I went 2018, 2019 Spurs. They went 48-34 in the Western Conference. And these are their top 4 scorers. LaMarcus Aldridge. Sorry, I pulled it up too far. DeMar DeRozan, LaMarcus Aldridge, Rudy Gay, and Marco Bellinelli.
Yeah.
Now, come on. I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge at that time still had, a lot left in the tank. Fine. But really? DeMar DeRozan, LaMarcus Aldridge, right, Rudy Gay, and Marco Bellinelli. Well, and they won almost 50 games. And they've been doing this for years because they play for a coach they respect, and frankly, they're a little bit afraid of him.
At this point, would you venture to say that Steve Kerr would maybe be a second to that?
I would, but I also think he's been kind of stepped on his whole career as a coach, maybe. But he started out with that, kind of 3 to 4 superstar team deal. I mean, anybody could have coached those teams to championships, and I think the players know that. I don't know if they put a lot of that respect on Kerr. They put that respect on Curry and all those guys.
Clay,
so maybe he could get there, but he's got to do a lot more with less. And I don't know who else it would be besides Popovich.
I mean, it's Pop, and then Doc. Really, I mean, when I think of marquee coaches in the NBA, those are the two names that come to mind right away is Doc and Pop. Yeah, I mean,
I could see that. I mean,
we're talking about longevity. We're talking about
shocked that we got Doc Rivers.
Yeah, me too.
Like,
me too.
He's a really great coach.
And I feel like I said, I turned on one of the fucking radio stations here in Philly, and I can't listen to it anymore because all they're talking about is Carson Wentz. I'm so fucking tired of hearing about it. And I heard one of the fucking radio hosts, saying that if the Sixers didn't make it out of the second round, that Doc Rivers would be on the hot seat. Are you fucking stupid?
That's crazy.
That's crazy. That is so sensationalized. I turned the radio off. I don't even care who it was. It was one of the morning show guys on 97.5. Whoever their new morning show guy is, he's trash.
He's actually an acquaintance of mine. But
I'm sure he's a really nice guy,
dude.
Yeah, he's all right.
The new guy.
I forget exactly what he said, and maybe I'm trying to remember if it was him or somebody that he was interviewing. But like, I was so turned off. I was like,
"That's Philly sports talk.
Get me out of here." All right, let's do go to the week and get out of here.
Might Be Sports presents the greatest of all time.
Of the week. My clear-cut go to the week this week is really a toss-up. And to stay with the Sixers vibe that we're doing this week, I was going to pick Ben Simmons because of his career high, but I got to go with Tobias Harris. And even in this episode, I don't feel like we've talked about him enough. I think that he is what the Sixers need. In that game against Utah, he had 36 points himself, coming in right behind Ben Simmons there. 13 for 24 field goals, 3 for 5 from the perimeter. The guy is having a great season this year, and I really, really liked him when the Sixers picked him up. I liked him less when the Sixers picked him over Jimmy Butler. But this year, I'm very, very happy with Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris is my clear-cut go to the week.
Yeah, well, we got to talk a little bit at NFL. I can't keep it out. And I can't talk Carson Wentz because nothing's happening. Stalemate on that. So
that sucks.
I nobody's really talking about it. Well, I guess they're not talking NFL right now because it's over. But J.J. Watt being released.
Yeah.
He has the chance to, kind of all by himself change the fate of a team next year. He's the defensive version of Tom Brady. And I don't think that's understating it. Well, I mean, think about it. Tom Brady, nobody was calling Tom Brady last year one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Nobody's calling right now, J.J. Watt in the twilight of his career, the best defensive end in the NFL. But enough of a difference maker.
Can you count
that guy?
You could probably count on one hand how many full seasons he's played. I'm not saying he's a bad player. It sucks how often he's hurt. That's just how.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. I think Tom Brady's proven. You sign a guy like Tom Brady at age 43, you're not expecting to get 5 years out of him. You're kind of thinking it's a one and done deal,
right?
And J.J. Watt might be the same thing. They're talking about him going to maybe the Browns, the Steelers, and that makes a ton of sense. He's going to be 32 years old next year.
DeAndre Hopkins wants him in Arizona bad.
He's that kind of guy. He's like we said, LeBron James, obviously Tom Brady, perfect example. These guys are like player coaches they rally the troops behind them.
Yeah.
They kind of make players better.
For
I think
sure.
J.J. Watt was always kind of that guy. He's so well respected in the NFL. He can be that guy. If he's got to go out there and just, try to kill it for 1-2 seasons, I think he elevates whatever defense he goes to, especially if he goes to a team like the Browns, where they obviously have a ton of help for him on defense already. That could be a very, very interesting situation. Love to see where he goes. I'm not a Steelers fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I would love to see that team with J.J. Watt and Ben Roethlisberger, and you could kind of see a Tampa Bay story developing there. And you might just see that be the first chip to fall and more stars jump in, like you saw with Gronkowski and, Antonio Brown. I could see a bunch more stars signing cheap to hook on with the Steelers for one last ride.
Yeah. That's good. Good job this week, Reevy. Thank you so much for being on the show, man. As always.
Yeah, man. Fun times.
Fun times as always. Everybody, make sure you go to CBD.com. Use promo code MBN. Get 20% off, free shipping and a free gift. Check out an all-new Might Be Tunes on Friday. Oh, and sign up for Patreon. $5 a month. Patreon.com/MBN Network. It'll help us out a lot. You'll get an exclusive episode on Thursdays. Reevy, peace out, man. See you next time.
See you next time.